I stayed silent. While my family lied about me, then someone asked. For most of my life, I believed that staying quiet was the same thing as being mature. I thought that not correcting people, not defending myself, and not stirring conflict meant I was taking the high road. I told myself that if I just kept my head down long enough, the truth would eventually surface on its own. I was wrong. In my family, silence didn't make me noble. It made me convenient. It started years ago, subtly enough that I didn't even realize it was happening. Little comments here and there, half-truths, stories retold with just enough distortion to make me look irresponsible, difficult, or unreliable. Nothing dramatic. Nothing worth making a scene over. At least that's what I told myself at the time. My family has always cared deeply about appearances. Not in a flashy way, but in a quiet, respectable, middle-class sense. We were supposed to look functional, close, supportive. Any cracks in that image were quickly smoothed over, usually by assigning blame to the person least likely to fight back. That person was me. I was the middle child, which already put me in a strange position. My older sibling was the golden one, accomplished, praised, and defended no matter what. My younger sibling was the baby, protected, excused, and constantly given the benefit of the doubt. I was the independent one, the one who didn't need help, the one who could handle things. That label stuck, and over time, it became a weapon. Whenever something went wrong, the narrative quietly shifted in my direction. If there was tension at a family gathering, it was because I was moody. If someone felt offended, it was because I was too blunt. If plans fell apart, it was because I was unreliable, even when I wasn't involved at all. I heard these stories secondhand at first. A cousin would say something like, "Oh, I heard you didn't want to come," when I'd never been invited. Or an aunt would joke about me being difficult, even though we barely spoke. Each time I felt a small sting, but I brushed it off. Correcting them felt awkward, dramatic, unnecessary. So I stayed silent. The lies became more organized over time, more polished. My parents would casually mention that I was going through a phase when I wasn't present. My siblings would exaggerate disagreements until I sounded unhinged. Any boundary I set was reframed as selfishness. Any distance I created was labeled as abandonment. What hurt most wasn't that they lied. It was that they lied so comfortably. I didn't confront them because I didn't want to fracture the family. I didn't want to be the problem. I thought that if I just continued to show up, continued to help, continued to be reasonable, the truth would naturally assert itself. Instead, the lies hardened into fact. By the time I realized how bad it had gotten, I had a reputation within my own extended family that didn't resemble me at all. People assumed things about my character that were completely untrue. And the worst part was that my silence validated every false story. Then came the event that finally broke everything open. It was a large family gathering, one of those obligatory events that everyone attends out of tradition rather than joy. I hadn't planned on going, but I was pressured into it. I told myself it would be fine. I'd show up, smile, make polite conversation, and leave early. From the moment I arrived, I could feel it. The tension, the sideways glances, the forced friendliness. Conversation stopping when I walked into a room. I told myself I was imagining it. During dinner, I noticed that people were strangely cautious around me, like they were bracing for something. No one sat next to me. Questions were superficial. Answers were short. It felt like I was being observed rather than included. At one point, I overheard my sibling telling a story about me from years ago, a story I remembered very clearly. In their version, I was unstable, selfish, and dramatic. In reality, I had been setting a perfectly reasonable boundary during a stressful time. People laughed uncomfortably. Someone shook their head in sympathy. I felt my face burn, but I stayed quiet. Then someone asked the question. It was an older relative by marriage, someone who hadn't grown up with our family dynamics and hadn't heard the stories for decades. They were kind, observant, and clearly confused. They looked directly at me and said, "Can I ask something?" The table went silent. They continued carefully. "Everyone keeps talking about you like you're this difficult person. But I've been watching you all night, and I don't see it." So I'm just wondering, what actually happened? The room froze. Every eye turned to me. This was the moment I had been avoiding for years. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My parents shifted uncomfortably. My siblings stared at their plates. No one stepped in. No one corrected anything. No one defended me. They were waiting to see if I would keep playing my role. And something inside me snapped. Not in a loud, explosive way. In a quiet, steady way that felt terrifying and relieving all at once. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't exaggerate. I just told the truth. I explained, calmly and clearly, how stories had been twisted over time. How boundaries had been reframed as hostility. How silence had been mistaken for guilt. I gave specific examples. Dates, situations, facts. I didn't accuse, I didn't attack. I simply corrected the record. The longer I spoke, the heavier the room became. People started exchanging glances. You could almost hear the pieces clicking into place. A few relatives looked genuinely shocked. Others looked embarrassed. My parents looked stunned, like they were hearing this version for the first time, even though they weren't. My siblings didn't say a word. When I finished, no one immediately responded. The silence stretched on, thick and uncomfortable. Then the person who had asked the question nodded slowly and said, "That makes a lot more sense." That was it. No applause, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet acknowledgement that the narrative everyone had accepted was incomplete. But the damage was already done. Just not to me. In the days that followed, I started getting messages, apologies, questions. People telling me they wished they had asked sooner. Some admitted they had always felt something was off but hadn't wanted to rock the boat. My family, on the other hand, did not take it well. My parents accused me of embarrassing them. My siblings said I had blindsided them. They claimed I should have handled it privately, even though they had been publicly misrepresenting me for years. What they were really upset about was losing control of the story. I realized then that my silence had never protected anyone. It had simply made their version easier to maintain. Things haven't magically improved since then. Some relationships are permanently strained. A few people still believe the old version because it's more comfortable for them. And my immediate family is more distant now, careful around me in a way that feels both ironic and exhausting. But here's what changed. I no longer carry the weight of their lies. I no longer feel responsible for maintaining a false image to keep others comfortable. I learned that silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it just means erasure. That night, when someone finally asked the question, I realized I was done sacrificing my truth for the illusion of harmony. I didn't blow up my family. They had already fractured it. I just stopped pretending it wasn't broken. And for the first time, I didn't leave a family gathering feeling small. I left feeling free.